Friends, welcome to the ecoChristian podcast. I'm Caleb, and this here today on October 4th, 2023, we're not only launching this podcast, but today actually is also the launch of the One Home, One Future national campaign. It is the first of its kind, an opportunity for any faith organization to work together for climate and environmental justice. It's so cool, and Carol is here to tell us all about it. Also, we'll learn about Blessed Tomorrow and how you can become a climate ambassador. So I hope you're ready to explore a little bit more about what it means to be Christian on planet Earth. All right, friends, I'm here with a good friend of mine who does very similar eco-theology work in the world, Carol Devine. She is the director of Blessed Tomorrow, which is, quote, a coalition of diverse religious partners united as faithful stewards of God's creation. So a wonderful organization that we're going to hear more about in a few minutes. But how are you today, Carol?
Oh, I'm just so great. It's so great always to be with you, Caleb. Thanks for inviting me here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought, there's lots of things that I thought was the writing on the wall to have you on the show today as part of this launch. But we're gonna get into that. I thought it might be fun. So you're in Kentucky, right?
I am. It's a gorgeous
Okay.
day here in Kentucky.
I'm telling you what, once you hit the fall,
Mm.
that's like peak, that's peak moment. So maybe we could start letting listeners hear a little bit about your own eco-Christian journey, as I like to call it, because you didn't necessarily start this journey doing right ecological justice work with a national crew, right? That's not necessarily the starting point. So take us on that journey for a minute, if you would.
Yeah, thanks. I won't give the long version of this story, but I'll give the short version, which is I was blessed to grow up with grandmother and two grandmothers and mother who trained me to care about creation, to be connected to. So I always was, I would call myself a tree hugger, but that was literally sometimes garden lover. That was, I grew up, we didn't have air conditioning, played outside, very connected to the natural world. So I would always say that I have just really had a strong connection, as we all really do, to the out of doors. And, but I never heard a single sermon, never had a single Sunday school lesson on that it is our call, that this is part of how we live out our faith. And so it wasn't until I was called to ministry. And I should first say I had been accepted to the PhD program in education at the University of Kentucky, was planning to start, had my advisor ready to go when I was called to ministry. And I came kicking and screaming like so many of us. That was not my plan. And there was nothing about a minister schedule that appealed to me, whereas an academic schedule is beautiful and has all the holidays off. Summers are optional, and that really appealed to me. Plus, I just love teaching. So I came to seminary just more of like, okay, God, you win, more than like really excited to be there. I was willing, I guess. And then I took a course, actually, an eco-theology course was offered, and it just piqued my interest as a tree hugger. And so in that class, and I don't remember the exact date, but I remember the exact moment when in this eco-theology class, it all came together almost like lightning, that this is why I was called to ministry. I was very confused first as to why would I be called to ministry, and gave God lots of reasons why it wasn't a good idea. And so in that class, I realized that I was called to help other people connect their faith with care for creation, that this is what it looks like for us to live out our faith. This is where we can connect with the holy, and that we're called to do this. And it's so clear when you read the Bible. There's so many places that we can see that call and that connection, and the fact that at the very beginning, God's spirit, God's breath goes out over the waters to begin creation, imbuing everything with sacredness, holiness. It makes so much sense when you're reading scripture. But if you have gone your whole life never hearing a sermon or never seeing that kind of action in your congregation, then it doesn't make, you don't come to make that connection. You see it as separate, I should say. I saw it as separate.
Yeah.
I saw that I chose to be vegetarian from a pretty early age because of my commitment to earth care, but I did not see that as part of my faith until seminary, when I was like, oh, actually, all of this is connected, and this is how I'm living out my faith, and I want to help other people to understand that as well. And so from there, I began what is called Green Chalice, which is the creation care program of my denomination, which is Christian Church Disciples of Christ. And it didn't start out with any kind of desire for anything national. It was just like, this is where I'm called to be, and it felt so right. Yeah.
That's great. That's really cool. Yeah, you man, I love the descriptors that you had there, and just sharing that story, and it was very concise. So I'm impressed. But that lightning moment, and sort of recognizing the holy, kind of what you said. I think those are great. Those are great words to use here in thinking about connecting some of these dots that maybe historically a lot of us haven't connected before, of thinking about quote unquote holy ground, and
Right.
and all those connections. So yeah, absolutely. So and I know that we've talked some before about the Green Chalice program and whatnot. Which, are you still involved with that at all,
I
or?
am. I will always probably at least be a little involved, but
Mhm.
I'm not the lead anymore. I'm just a big supporter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And to clarify for our listeners, that's a program where if you're part of the Disciples of Christ denomination, that you can get like certified as a Green Chalice Church by doing XYZ,
That's right.
which is it's a really cool model.
That's right. And it's, we have, I don't know what the number is now, over 200, maybe near 250 congregations, disciples congregations that have taken steps to live out their faith by caring for creation. And the great thing is, there are so many ways that us as Christians, and that us as Christian congregations can do. There's not just like, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this. You don't have to have a recycling program, for instance. And for some people, that's like, that's just like, so there's not a lot of energy and joy that comes from that for some people. So you don't have to do just this, or this. It's more about like, where's the Spirit calling you? And how are you called to live out your faith in this way? That people are doing amazing things, which is really
Yeah. I think uh, once you begin to connect a lot of those faith dots, between, the earth and Christianity, and it's sort of like a floodgates open, and then you can find so many different connection points. I think at that junction, to say like, we can engage in this holy work in several different ways, in a variety of ways, really.
yeah,
And I love just sort of the creativity door that begins to fling open there.
yeah.
Um, Tell us about Blessed Tomorrow. When did you join up there, and what is it? And if you know the backstory, maybe you could share a little bit about how it came about and what they do.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. So I I've actually, ecoAmerica is the organization, and Blessed Tomorrow is the faith program of ecoAmerica. ecoAmerica has three kind of subject or sectors. And one of them is health. One of the sectors works with health professionals of all sorts. One of them works with community organizations, from mayors to any kind of organization that might be in a community that's not faith-based. And then Blessed Tomorrow works with denominations and faith organizations. I first came to be connected with ecoAmerica in 2014. They actually found me. I'm going to guess by Google, but I don't know how, to be honest. Because I founded Green Chalice and was leading that at that time, and was also a full-time pastor here in Kentucky. And so they just wanted to interview me and learn more about how this all came to be. And then they asked for my denomination, would we be willing to partner with them, with other denominations as well. And so I actually, was as a Christian Church Disciples of Christ representative, partnering with ecoAmerica since 2015, the very beginning of 2015, I guess. And they really helped Green Chalice. They really helped me in my work, in my denomination, grow and expand. They really challenged me, like, how else can we be building this up within our denomination? And they supported me with lots of resources and ideas and just encouragement. So when the faith director prior to me felt called to another position, they reached out and said, would you please apply for this? And so I did. So I've been here just a year and a half as the director of Blessed Tomorrow, but I have known these great folks since 2014. So yeah, and they're an organization that's just, the whole purpose of us in all of our sectors is how can we support those who are engaged in creation care, climate work. What resources can we provide? How can we encourage, support, connect, build all of us together? So that's the point. The point isn't Carol or Blessed Tomorrow or ecoAmerica. The point is all the folks who are doing the work in their area, and how can we expand, scale that?
That's great. And so they, or you guys partner with kind of on the denominational level typically? Is that how it works? Or I guess across other faith streams?
Yes. So any denomination, we are multi-faith. So any denomination, as well as faith organizations. So we kind of have both. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so maybe we could linger here for a minute. If you could translate that for us a little bit more onto the local level, and what those resources look like on a day-to-day basis, or obviously that could be different depending on who you're connecting with. But yeah, what does some of that look like?
Yeah. So we, for instance, let me do an example of my own denomination, because that way I can speak on both sides. So for instance, the ecoAmerica Blessed Tomorrow provides Disciples of Christ a climate ambassador training that is customized for disciples. So the training is going to be the same for any of our partners, except there's additional content that our partners can add to it if they decide to do that. And so if a disciple of Christ member goes and takes this training, they're going to see me as Green Chalice, and they're going to see us talking from that perspective and kind of giving, like, why is this important for disciples? So one of them is training. That training is on demand, online, but also we do it occasionally we do it virtually as well, live. And then I've also, of course, done it in person. So there's that training. There's so many various resources, quote unquote, paper resources that we can use within our congregations on various subjects. The most recent one is on oceans and climate, or the ocean and climate. So what do we as people of faith need to know about how the ocean is connected to climate? And what do we need to do to help preserve, protect, heal the ocean and climate? So we have lots of resources like that. Then we also have resources that help us engage and get started, like what do we need to do? But we really try to point everybody who comes to us, we try to connect them with, point them back to their own denomination if there is a program there. There are some denominations that don't have the blessing of having somebody who's able to lead in that way. And so then we try to fill in that gap. But for most of our denominations, there's at least some kind of program in creation care. And we're really wanting people to get more engaged in their own faith tradition, while also looking out and saying, hey, we're in this together, kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I know I've seen some of the climate stuff before, and that just seems like a really cool resource. And so that's like a you can kind of take this chunk of time commitment, go through these courses. And what are some of the things you're learning there? Is it more on the scientific side of the information?
So we're really trying to reach people who don't have a lot of information. So somebody who has a degree in this might not find this super helpful, right? It's a 4-hour on-demand training. You can go fast or slow. You have 6 weeks to take it. You can do it all at once. And it gives the basics of climate science. What do we know from scientists? It gives climate solutions. What do we know is going to work or is working in solving this problem? It connects climate with all the things we care about as people of faith: children, health, air, water, list goes on, poverty, all the things that we already really care about as people of faith. And it shows how climate connects with all of those issues. It really teaches a basic about climate justice. What does it mean to center justice in our creation care work? And then it talks about, how do we talk about this? For a lot of us, a lot of people I encounter, Christians in particular, are not talking about their concern about climate change because they don't feel like they know enough. They don't have the confidence to talk about it. So we have a whole section in the training that's research-based about how do we talk about this. And hopefully at the end of that 4 hours, folks feel like they have enough information and the confidence to be able to talk about it with families, talk about it in their congregations, with their communities at work or wherever. Because I think one of the things that's really sad to me, Caleb, is that I regularly come in contact with people who learn what I do for work, who say to me, I didn't know that any people of faith were engaged in climate work.
Mm,
We need
mm,
that to not be a secret. There's a lot of us
mm,
doing incredible things. People blow me away. Congregations blow me away and inspire me with what they're doing. And yet people don't know about it. So it's really
mm.
important. Catherine Hayhoe says one of the most important things we can do is talk about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, most certainly. And I would definitely agree with that. I've definitely heard that and seen and had a lot of those conversations. And I think something like climate in particular, unfortunately, there's a lot of social media. There's a lot of mud in the water. I think, or it can be when it comes to the thread of information. And so it is so important to talk with people such as yourself and such as climate scientists like Catherine Hayhoe and other people, like that there are, there are there's concrete evidence, surrounding this, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and so forth and so on. But yet, I think I wasn't necessarily planning on going here, but I feel like it's appropriate to wrestle with for just a minute up front. A bit, quote of the elephant in the room is especially in America, and obviously blessed tomorrow, ecoAmerica. There is some political division, obviously, around climate talk.
Right.
I'm curious if you've seen any of that or experienced any of that, or what you've observed to be in your work and talking with people of faith about this. Has it felt, has that been the energy in the room? Has it felt kind of, divisive? Has it felt like we're all on the same page? I'm just curious about your experience there.
Yeah, I think this is such an important topic for us, for Christians, um, because, like I said earlier, if we read Holy Scripture, if we sit down and read the Bible, we can't go too far without seeing that we are called, that the earth, that all God created is imbued with God's Spirit, and that it is sacred, and that we are called to care for it, because it is the Lord's. The earth is the Lord's, right? And so it doesn't really matter what politicians are saying. I hope that we don't look to politicians for our faith, because they're not great examples of living out their faith on any side, on Republicans, Democrats, or independents. That is not where we should go for how do we live as people of faith. So I think when we go to our Holy Scriptures and we really sit down with open hearts and have these conversations, it's pretty clear what we're called to care for and how we're called to live. My grandmother said to me so frequently that it's just like ingrained in me, waste not, want not. And the idea is that we, as people of faith, as followers of Christ, are not called to more, 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 more. Jesus never said that. As a matter of fact, he cautioned us about money, more than anything, right? That there's a lot of concern there. So what we're called to do as followers of Christ is to care for the others in the world, even if they are our enemies. We're called to find Christ and the least, the lost, the broken, prisoners. We are called to have compassion and love, and to live, I would say, walking gently on the earth and caring for all that is holy, which is all there is. As a pastor, I served a congregation that was identified more Republicans. There were some Democrats in the congregation, and that's okay. That was okay. That wasn't a problem. Sometimes people would joke that I preached a whole lot about creation care, but I think they also understood that where I come from and how this is so important to how we care for each other, how we love each other. One of my favorite, well, I have so many favorite texts, but one of my favorite texts in the Bible is in Genesis 1 at the end, where when we look at where humans were created, we were created last. After the creepy crawly things, right? We were created last. And I've always taken that to be for us to remember that all of the things that were created before us could do completely fine without us. But we cannot live without all of the things created before us. And so we need to come about our lives with humility and compassion, love, gentleness. So I guess that was a little bit long-winded, but that's
No, I love that.
That's where I don't want to get in political discussions with people, and creation care should not be political. It should be the center of how we are as people of faith.
Absolutely. Yeah, I say quite often, I almost don't like the term creation care, because just in saying creation care, you're sort of setting it aside as something that is separate,
Right.
or like it's, and I spend a lot of my time trying to resource and equip churches and things like that around this, and it can come across and feel like you're saying, okay, you got your Wednesday night thing and your youth and your women's ministry and all the other things, so add a creation care ministry as well, as if it's just this other whole arm, rather than maybe we should just lop off that first word and just say, this is just kind of about caring, just care, because I think once you sort of really peer into behind that door, you see that, like you're saying, it's all interconnected, and
Yes.
and we are dependent upon all of these systems and ecosystems and creatures and creepy crawlies and biome and all the things. Like, this is very and then it really, once you see that, I think you realize that all ministry is creation care ministry, because we're
Yes.
always interacting with creation in everything that you do, period. And but two, man, like, isn't God kind of awesome?
Ugh,
Like once you
right.
like see how it's all just connected, you're like, this is way cooler than we ever thought. And the more that science discovers, the more amazing it gets.
Oh,
Right?
and I don't want to get off on a tangent at all, but I'm just going to say that the more science discovers, the more we realize that the holy mystics and the authors of our holy scripture have been telling us this for centuries, right? That science is showing us how connected and interconnected and dependent we are, and that we already knew that from our
Mm,
holy scriptures. I just think it's that our DNA is 99.9% the same as every other person on the planet, even
yes.
those that we don't like, and that we are more related to every single living thing than we are unrelated. It's just mind blowing and just
Yes.
supports our faith. And anyway, it's not new information. It's more like, yep, that's what we've been saying.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I'm gonna use this as a segue point, because I want to get to sort of the main event, quote unquote, of particularly why I thought we should talk today. But back in was it February?
Yes.
Okay, so back in February, your team graciously invited some of us and my team to come and participate with as an ecumenical gathering from all over the nation, different leaders to come and talk about what Blessed Tomorrow's up to in this new campaign called One Home and One Future. Anyway, before I get into that, I just wanted to share, because while we're in DC, me and my friend, we went to the Natural Smithsonian History Museum. And of course, they've got all of the, just these mind-blowing facts. And one of the ones I took a picture of, I was just scrolling here to find it. It says that we're 60% genetically similar to bananas. And I
Yes.
thought, well, there you go, which is why my daughter eats like 4 a day. But yeah. So, yeah, so I want to talk about this. So, Blessed Tomorrow is launching when this episode's actually coming out on October 4th, a nationwide campaign called One Home, One Future. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, nothing like this has ever happened, right?
That is correct. Yes. So when I took this position, it's been a year and a half ago. The thing that I've been working in climate and faith quite a long time, and as the clock is ticking, and we have some work to do. And so I wanted to really think about what is it that we need as people of faith to lead and be seen as leaders on creation care and climate. And the thing that I saw, two things that have been missing. One I already named, and that's visibility. We cannot hide our light under a bushel basket, if you will, and we cannot hide our faith and how we live out our faith. And so being visible in our leadership in climate justice is important. And the second thing is we had never really held hands with all people of faith, that even if we disagree theologically, even if we worship differently, even if we call God different things and we have different modes of baptism and all the things, we all do agree that the earth is created by God, that it is holy, and that God gave us stewardship. The word dominion often gets translated incorrectly, but if dominion means, caring for, guarding, so we all have been given this, and so we can move forward together rather than me just working with disciples and you working with Nazarenes and everybody just in our own little towers. Instead, we can continue that incredible work and also say, all of us are in this together. And what a mighty force we are when we all say we are people of faith who are moving forward on creation care, climate justice together. How powerful. And also, so this was just like where I really felt God and still feel God calling me, but I've never done anything like this before, right? And so I went to the great folks at ecoAmerica who have way more expertise on these things than I do. And they said, let's go, but we need to be very methodical about it. So in November of last year, we brought together the heads of many denominations. I think there were 16 multi-faith denomination leaders who gathered around a table and just worked with us for a whole day, answering the question, what do we need to lead on this issue? How can we work together? And the thing that they really called us to were a couple of things. One is the youth need to be center and leading us. We need to make space for the youth and acknowledge the incredible humans that they are and how smart they are and all that goes with youth. We need to also have a multi-faith effort where we are supporting and cheering each other on in this work. And we need to really support our clergy or lay leadership. They need more resources. They need more trainings, especially the ones those of us who went to seminary and never took a class on creation care or eco-theology or any of the various terms, environmental stewardship. So we then took that and then held that gathering in February that you and a greater group attended in person in DC and also virtually online. And we took careful notes of all the things. And from that, really listened that this has to be grounded in justice. This has to be really geared generationally, centering our youth. And this has to support our clergy and our lay leaders, our faith leaders. And so from that, we gathered this small coalition. Well, we invited anyone, but we gathered this small coalition who helped us come up with all of the parts of this. So really, if you go to onehomeonefuture.org, which is officially launching today, October 4th, then you will see lots of stuff there. And all of that information has come through so many people who have said, hey, including you, Caleb, you, one of the things that you reminded when we looked at that website together before it was live, you said, well, people need to see right away that this is faith-based. And right away on the very first homepage, you didn't necessarily see that. And we were like, oh, Caleb is so right. And so now on the first page, you see scripture references, and we're happy to add more scripture references as we move along because it is a living website. But we took very careful notes, and anytime somebody made a contribution or a suggestion or whatever that might be, we took that to heart and have really tried to work with all of you to craft this campaign that isn't Blessed Tomorrow's. We are hosting it and trying to provide the time and energy and a little bit of money for it. But this is a campaign of all of us. and I'm so excited that a denomination or a congregation or could take this campaign and said, here is what I want to do with it, that this isn't like owned, but all of us to enter into and to live it out as we are called as people of faith.
Man, that's what's up. That's so good. So, so the hopes, so it's called One Home, One Future. It's launching now, and obviously we're on this is the beginning of it.
That's right.
But I'm curious what your general feels are so far as the participation and how you've seen maybe some momentum happen. I'm curious also, maybe you don't know this off the top of your head, but like uh, how many denominations or faith-based organizations are buying in so far?
I have been blown away. And I think it's because the folks at ecoAmerica had ideas about how this needed to happen, which was not my own wisdom or knowledge, that we needed to go slowly, that we needed to listen and listen and listen. And that is what we've tried to do. And so we have, the Episcopal Church, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, Disciples of Christ, United Church of Christ. We have the African Methodist Episcopal Church. We have the National Baptist Convention, USA, and on and on and on. UUA, Unitarian Universalist Association, as well as Adamah, and another Jewish organization, Muslim organization. So I've been blown away that once we're methodical and slow about this and really listened and worked together, that all of the denominations have been like, yeah, of course. National Council of Churches, I believe, was the very first organization to say, yep, we're in, which was really exciting.
Wow.
Because they represent 32 or 34 denominations, Christian denominations. So really excited, because this isn't the great thing about this campaign is there are 7 pathways for engagement for congregations and faith leaders. So you don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can start at 3 or wherever you feel the Holy Spirit moving you. I always say this work is actually like life-giving. And if we listen to where God's Spirit, the Holy Spirit, is calling us or leading us to engage, then we will have energy. We will have joy. This isn't, to your point earlier about, this is really about care.
Yeah.
What I say to pastors, and pastors are, especially these days, have so much on their plates, and more importantly, on their hearts. And what I try to explain to clergy is this is not an additional thing. This is how we do everything. We preach about care. We teach about care. We worship. So I love that you framed it that way. When we think about how we teach our young folks or engage in our prison ministries or all of the things, it is about care, right? And it's about love. So this is just how we do all the things we do, not an additional thing.
Yeah, that's really great. And man, it's beautiful to hear. I mean, how many campaigns or how many things like this can you name that's just like we got Christians and Muslims and Jews and all this just across the spectrum, and right, thus one home, right? We got this one home and this one future that we're working together on, and that's it's a beautiful opportunity, really, that I hope listeners will jump on to connect with you guys. So maybe so I say I'm a pastor, or just a Christian, or help lead in the church some way. What does it mean to join up with this campaign? What is it like? What does that require of me? Maybe you could just a couple bullet points there of what that could look like.
Yes. So first of all, it is just saying, I'm committing to, let's say it's a congregation. I'm committing that this is going to be central to how we as a congregation live out our faith. But what that looks like for this church versus this church is going to be very different. Some of the congregations that have already signed on are brand new at connecting their faith with care of creation. Some of them have been doing this work for years and are ready for the next level. So it just means a commitment. The first 1,000 congregations get a free banner and resource kit that's mailed to them. And they can put that banner, hang it in their church, front of their church, and just kind of visibly show this is important to us. The thing that's beautiful about that is there are people who drive by, how many churches in a day or a week? So many. And we know that more people are not worshiping than worshiping these days. This is a way for us to say, look, we are living out our faith in this way. Come and check it out.
Mm.
Come and check it out. Come see what this is about. Come on in and worship with us. So it really is an evangelism tool in the best way. This isn't just to get warm bodies in our pews, but for people to come in and engage with us, following Christ in this way. There's no one who's more connected to the earth than Jesus Christ, right? And so following in his footsteps through this ministry of care. I love that. I'm going to take it from you, Caleb, because that's so good.
That's good. Well, you're preaching now. That's really cool. So, lots of resources on your website. There's a variety of ways to engage with the campaign, and I think not the least of which you kind of enter into this beautiful ecumenical, across faith relationships with these other gatherings of believers, and you sort of like locking arms and saying this matters. And
That's right.
because and like you said earlier in the show, right, that like, I mean, to be blunt, time is of the essence, as a people, as a nation, as a world, for
That's
us
right.
to act on it. And unfortunately, the church hasn't necessarily been the quickest one at the table when maybe we should have been. And I think this is a beautiful opportunity that is that's co-owned, I'm gonna say.
Yes.
Right. The we, like you're saying earlier, I think that's a very important takeaway here. This is not it's not your thing, it's not my thing, but this is a means for us to have sort of a neutral playground here to engage in. And I think that's
Yes.
huge.
And people of faith are the best to lead on this issue because we have always understood that we are not given life for our own purposes, but for God's. And we have from our faith always understood that we plant that tree of whose fruit we will never eat because someone else will be able to sit in the shade and eat of that fruit, right? We understand that our goal is for a beautiful and hopeful future for those generations that we will never even meet. And there's just nobody else who gets that like we do. This is who we are. And so we need to be leading on this because we understand that we might not see things change quickly, but our work and leadership on this is critical.
That's right. That's right. And that's why I love that quote unquote futures in there. And
Yes.
because it's like, to be faithful, we have to think long term and we have to think deep time. And I think that's, at least as a Christian, I feel very hypocritical if I'm not doing that, because that's what's occurring as I read the Bible. Deep time.
Yes. Yeah.
And who are we to say that maybe it all ends tomorrow, maybe not. Regardless, like, we are called to this faithfulness, and we cannot do that with everything that we know without being responsible caretakers, which, as we said, ironically, goes all the way back to the first page of the story for us. And so, Yeah, that's crucial. Okay, I'm gonna shut up now. But thank you so much for sharing about Blessed Tomorrow and One Home and One Future. And so, any last words of wisdom that you wanted to impart there?
I think that I have a little Post-it note on my desk that says practice hope. And we cannot get hope and then hang on to it and it never change, but we can get up each day and practice our faith, practice hope. And that can look so different for each of us. But when I practice hope, that provides some hope for you. And when you practice hope, it provides hope for me. And that's what we're called to be, right? People of hope. Thank you.
That's great, Carol. Thanks so much. So there's your personal action takeaway. Check out Blessed Tomorrow. Check out the campaign. The website and all that, all the goods will be in the show notes. And I hope that you get to connect with Carol yourself. So there we go. Thanks so much, Carol.
Thanks, Caleb.
May you know that you belong. You are part of God's creation, and we share this home together, and we share this future as people among a planet. So scroll down to discover more about the One Home, One Future initiative, and keep scrolling down to give us a star rating and even leave a review. Grace and peace, friends.